What's up, YouTube? Josh here today. Gonna do a video that I was asked to do on MSD boxes and how to wire them up on rotaries. I'm gonna post a link in the description below that'll take me to a lot of really good information about how this is done, whether it be a wasted spark or direct spark setup. And then I'm gonna go over everything on how mine is set up. And the different options that you have that you can set yours up. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, to get started, let me give you a little bit of background on my setup. 2 MSD blaster heavy duty coils that are epoxy filled, not the oil filled versions. I have a video on that. Reason why you don't use oil filled coils in at least a first gen RX-7 unless they're mounted vertically. 2 MSD 6AL boxes, Weber carb, and wasted spark pass-through, or wasted spark distributor. So any of the 6A boxes will work. There's a 6A, 6AL, and 6AL2, I believe, and the difference in all of those is just the limiter options that you have. So getting started with my setup, there's 2 different types. Josh here from the future. Yeah, so I lied to you here. There's actually 3 different setups that you can use. You can have one setup that runs the just the leading coils, and then you can have the other setup like mine where you have it wasted spark through both the leading and the trailing, and then you have the third set where you have one running both the leading coils directly, and then a wasted spark on the trailing sparks. So let's get back to the video. That you can have it 2 different ways you can have it done. You can have it done the way that I have it done, which is it's pretty much just the stock setup, just using MSDs to fire it, so it's a capacitance instead of an impedance fire, so that it's a stronger spark. And with it being a rotary, the more RPMs you turn, the faster the coils have to recharge. And on the old system, with it being an impedance, it takes a little bit longer than with it being a capacitance. So it's just, all this really does is make sure that when you're spinning at 7,000 RPMs that you have a nice strong spark. Also helps to keep from fouling plugs, F-O-U-L-I-N-G, fouling plugs when it's cold. This thing is actually harder to start warm because it likes to boil the fuel in the carburetor than when it's cold. It's literally 2 pumps, turn the key, and it fires right up. So that's the stock setup. It's literally 1 box controls leading, 1 box controls tailing, just like with the 2 coils and how it would be set up stock. The other way is to have 1 box running 2 coils that directly fire the leading spark plugs for rotor 1 and rotor 2. They don't go through the distributor. It goes straight from the MSD box into 1 coil, and you jumper the positive to the positive and the negative to the negative. That way you have 2, and it fires into the leading. You can do this and get away with it and not have any issues. You don't want to do this on the trailing plugs, because if you do it on the trailing plugs, where the wasted leading spark will fire when it's in between strokes, it won't hurt the motor, but the trailing will. It could possibly spin the motor backwards or just detonate and cause you to break apex seals, which is how you do that really easily. So to do that, you would set this all up the exact same way. You'd mount a 3rd coil for spare. It would still run through the distributor and charge the trailing plugs. You would buy separate the spark plug coil, not coil, but spark plug wire kit, where it comes with the coil on one end and it's like unmade on the other end, and you have to crimp your own plug onto it and everything. That way you have the correct length, and it just goes straight to the plugs. So you're bypassing the distributor altogether. It helps with timing a little bit, so the timing between leading and trailing plugs will be a little bit differently, since you're dropping out a whole bunch of possible spark loss and time. I mean, you're talking about milliseconds here. So I mean, you might gain a degree of timing or something between the split instead of, whatever it is factory. I think it's 7 or 10 or whatever. Anyways, so that's how you do that. So wiring the boxes themselves. The boxes themselves are really easy to wire. I think there's still old terminology out there that MSD has that's still around. I don't think it's actually in MSD's paperwork anymore, but you can still find it online where it tells you how to wire the boxes. I believe I bought these from somebody that was already set up, but he told me that they're set to be ran as a V6, since that's kind of how the distributor setup is on them. Actually, it's technically a 5-cylinder, but V6 it works with the MSD boxes. So you have a couple of different wire colors. Mine, I mean, it's the older style, so it could be different on yours, but I have purple and green that goes to the pickups in the distributor. All right, and those you can go either way. I don't think they really matter, since it's doing is providing it's picking up where the distributor is, so it's just completing a continuity, so it doesn't really matter. Then you have a orange wire, I believe is what it is. Let's see here. Let's get down in there. Yeah. So you have an orange wire that provides a tack signal, and then you have a big fat red that goes to battery, a big fat black that goes to ground, and then you have a small red, I believe, that is your ignition source. So if we come around over here, we can see some of my janky wiring. So let me actually just pull this plug off so we can actually see it. All right, so it's a little tight in there right now, but at least you can see what I'm talking about. So little red, white's probably ground, gray. These might actually be, these red and black is probably what provides the signal to the coils. And yeah, see, all of this isn't long enough to go from this side of the car to that side of the car, so everything that's on that side is spliced correctly so that it's red and black, so I know which is positive and which is ground, but I don't know what color it coordinates to with the MSD boxes. There's paperwork online. If I find it, I'll post a link to it in the description down below as well. But anyways, that's pretty much the gist of MSD boxes. You don't really want them to get hot. I mean, because they're capacitors themselves, along with coils. So the link down below says that these provide 475 volts and those provide 40,000. So I mean, these can get hot. Everybody that's ever seen my setup has always said, "Oh, you'll kill the boxes sitting there." Well, it's been like this for 3 years now, and I drive it around here in Tennessee, and it gets to 100 plus degrees outside, and the boxes get hot, but I've never had an issue with it. I think a lot of it has to deal with how you mount the boxes. MSD specifically says to make sure you mount it so that the plug is at a downward angle so that condensation or anything runs out because they're sealed except for around the plug, which is where the only place where they would be able to have moisture come in and out. Other than that, that's pretty much my setup. I'll show you what it looks like underneath the distributor really quickly. That way you have an idea, because I don't have the fancy whatchamacallits in here anymore. I can't remember what they're called. So I still have the pickups, but I don't have the electronic pieces that the pickups run off of. It's just spliced straight into my wiring. So I need to lock, actually it looks like it is locked, to lock the advancement setup. It's not locked currently. So I need to lock that so that I don't have any changing timing, but it's not going to change because it's not, I don't have vacuum hooked up, so it shouldn't matter anyways. But all right guys, anyways, figured I'd give you a quick overview, my understanding of the MSD box setup. Pretty simple. You just want to make sure that you use good crimps. You don't want to use, you know, El Cheapo crimpers or the actual like butt connectors like all of mine are the nice sealed kind. That'll keep you from having issues with losing a signal, which is, I mean, anytime you deal with anything ignition related, you don't need to mess around, because it can cause you can go from having a great running car to a shit running car just because of ignition stuff. So you can actually see that with the MSD boxes that it fires so much quicker that only the front portion of the rotors are burnt. It's actually burning only the front side because it fires so much quicker. But I'm gonna go and clean this off because, you know, it's a good thing to keep these clean. And until next time, guys, happy wrapping.